Welcome to Girlfriends Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study Scripture. So grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend, and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
So, hello, Debrian. Hello, Gina. I see you guys up there. Debrian, I see you wore your orange in solidarity. You know, we're vibing, we're vibing. Anyway, we are starting a new theme tonight. Happy 4th of July, I should say to everybody. If you're celebrating Independence Day, happy Independence Day for you and yours. And if you're seeing fireworks or barbecuing or whatever it might be, I hope you enjoy. So, we're starting off with a new theme for July, which is the ark. And it's so interesting because I never remember what the theme is and I never look ahead. So I pull out the paper where God told me at the beginning of the year what our themes were going to be. And I see it says the ark. So, of course, I assume he means Noah's ark. And so I'm thinking, okay, Lord, what do you have to show me? And I search on a scripture for the ark, and it's all about the Ark of the Covenant. And I was like, well, there was another ark. Interesting that they called them both arks. And I guess they both carried things, but one was big enough to carry, people and animals, and the other one carried things. But as I started researching, of course, praying, getting ready for Bible study, as he always does, he showed me something that was new for me. Maybe you might be familiar with it. And if so, then I commend you. But Bible study is it's always a journey for me. It's always an adventure. And even when it's a scripture that I've read before, and some of these I've read before even recently, because I know which book of the Bible I just finished reading and still didn't put it together. And that's what's so amazing about God's word. So tonight's title for the Bible study is called What Was in the Ark? What was in the ark? And we're going to start not in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament. Because look at there, that's where he took me. So we're going to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. And we're going to read verses 1 through 5. And here's what they say. My eyes are a little fuzzy today. I think it's because I'm tired. Got the big print and everything and still can't see. All right. Now, the first covenant had regulations for worship and also an earthly sanctuary. A tabernacle was set up. In its first room were the lampstand and the table with its consecrated bread. This was called the holy place. Behind the second curtain was a room called the most holy place, which had the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered Ark of the Covenant. This ark contained the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. Those three things. I never think of anything but the tablets being in there. But this says this ark contained the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. Above the ark were the cherubim of the glory, overshadowing the atonement cover. Listen to this sentence. But we cannot discuss these things in detail now. Isn't that interesting? We cannot discuss these things in detail now. All right. I don't know why, but they could not do it at that time. And in the King James Version, it says, of which we cannot now speak particularly. Of which we cannot now speak particularly. So, that's its own study. I'll get back to that. But let's take a look. They mention that it had the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. So let's look at each one. So the gold jar of manna we will find in Exodus chapter 16. So go to Exodus chapter 16. All right. I'm actually going to read the whole thing because those Israelites, boy, oh boy, they were the most complaining people. And, sometimes I feel sorry for them because they wandered around 40 years in the desert and never did make it to the place they were supposed to go. But they were the least faithful people they had the most miracles and the littlest faith. Honestly, all of the things, the plagues, the parting of the water, all the things, and all they did was complain. Excuse me. So take a look at it in Exodus. We're going to read the whole chapter 16. So starting with verse 1, the whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of, I will probably call Sin instead of Sin, but it looks like desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death." This is them talking after being saved, just grumbling, exclamation marks and everything. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they follow my instructions." We already know they're not going to do it. On the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Now he's giving them some instructions. He's trying to see this hard-headed people, are they going to listen? So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening, you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning, you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against him." Who are we that you should grumble against us? This is Moses asking, like, you say Moses and Aaron, we didn't do it. Prophecy, God. Who are we that you should grumble against us? Moses also said, "You will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him." Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses told Aaron, "Say to the entire Israelite community, 'Come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling.'" While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked toward the desert, and there was the glory of the Lord appearing in the cloud. The Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God." That evening, quail came and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take an omer, that is possibly about 3 pounds, for each person you have in your tent. 3 pounds for each person you have in your tent." The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, "No one is to keep any of it until morning." However, however, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. That's nasty. So, first of all, disobedience. And even with fresh bread, it doesn't get maggoty in the next day. God meant, do what I said and do what I said. That's it. Those are the options. Do what I said. That's it. That's all you got. So Moses was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed, and when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person. And the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. He said to them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil, save whatever is left, and keep it until morning." Now, when they disobediently kept it until morning, it had maggots and it smelled. But when you do it obediently, as you see in verse 24, so they saved it until morning as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is a Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will not be any. Nevertheless, here we are again. Nevertheless, some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather it, but they found none. Then the Lord said to Moses, "How long will you," and it says you, the Hebrew is plural, it says, "how long will you refuse to keep my commands and my instructions? Bear in mind that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. That is why on the sixth day he gives you bread for 2 days. Everyone is to stay where they are on the seventh day. No one is to go out." So the people rested on the seventh day. The people of Israel called the bread manna. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey grams. They had honey grams. It tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Take an omer of manna, and take an omer of manna and keep it for the generations to come, so they can see the bread I gave you to eat in the wilderness when I brought you out of Egypt." So Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, then place it before the Lord to be kept for the generations to come." As the Lord commanded Moses, Aaron put the manna with the tablets of the covenant law so that it might be preserved. The Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan. An omer is 1/10 of an ephah. Just wanted you to know, I put that in parentheses there. So that is Exodus 16, 1 through 36. That's the manna. Keep in mind, the ark had not even been built, or it may have been built, but it doesn't say so here. This is not where the ark had been built. Later we read, which is funny because we're going to read about the tablets in a moment, and also in Exodus, and they talk about where to put the tablets, but it's not until Exodus 37 that we find out the making of the ark. So, and we're not going to read that today. So today, the next thing we're going to read, even though they mention manna and then Aaron's budding rod, but we're going to read, since we're already in Exodus, we're going to just read a few verses in Exodus 25. So go to Exodus 25, verse 10. And this is talking also about the making of. We get into detail on the making of in 37, but we're going to talk a little bit about it in 25:10 through 22. "Have them make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high." And it says that is a chest that is about 3 3/4 feet long and 2 1/4 feet wide. Just that's the size of it. "Overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out, and make a gold molding around it. Cast 4 gold rings for it and fasten them to its 4 feet with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. Then make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry it." And in another study, we have read, and we'll read again, about the importance of how you carry that ark. You can't just carry it in a kind of way. "The poles are to remain in the rings of this ark. They are not to be removed. And disobedient people removed them and tried to steady and carry it on back of something, and it turned out poorly. Anyway, then it says in verse 16, then put in the ark the tablets of the covenant law, which I will give you. So it's not there yet, but it's going to be there. And then I just like how it's made. So we're going to finish that off 17 through 22. Make an atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide, and make 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. Make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the 2 ends. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking toward the cover. Place the cover on top of the ark and put in the ark, it says it again, the tablets of the covenant law that I will give you. There, above the cover between the 2 cherubim that are over the ark of the covenant law, I will meet with you and give you all my commands for the Israelites. So that's the tablets. We know the tablets are going in. We know that they've set this gold cup for manna aside. And so that's going in. And then we get to read in Numbers 17, verses 1 through 13, about Aaron's budding staff or his budding rod, which is the third item in the ark that we read about in Hebrews. So, Numbers chapter 17, verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and get 12 staffs from them, one from the leader of each of their ancestral tribes. Write the name of each man on his staff. On the staff of Levi, write Aaron's name, for there must be one staff for the head of each ancestral tribe. Place them in the tent of meeting in front of the ark of the covenant law. So the ark is here now, where I will meet with you. The staff belonging to the man I choose will sprout, and I will rid myself of this constant grumbling against you by the Israelites. Still grumbling, y'all. We a whole other book and they're still grumbling. So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and their leaders gave them 12 staffs, one for the leader of each of their ancestral tribes, and Aaron's staff was among them. Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the covenant law. The next day, Moses entered the tent and saw that Aaron's staff, which represented the tribe of Levi, had not only sprouted, but had budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. Then Moses brought out all the staffs from the Lord's presence to all the Israelites. They looked at them, and each of the leaders took his own staff. The Lord said to Moses, put back Aaron's staff in front of the ark of the covenant law to be kept as a sign to the rebellious. This will put an end to their grumbling against me so that they will not die. Moses did just as the Lord commanded him. The Israelites said to Moses, we lost. The tabernacle of the Lord will die. Are we all going to die? Pitiful, y'all. Pitiful. And that's how it ends. So, and they get into some duties next, but the budding of Aaron's staff. So when they said what was in the ark, it's interesting. It was the manna, it was the tablets, and it was Aaron's budding rod or his budding staff. Those were the things that were in the ark. And in case you didn't know, now you know. You also see these people who grumbled and complained without stopping, from book to book to book, from chapter to chapter. Things were going well, and then they say, however, they were disobedient. Nevertheless, they were disobedient. Pitiful. But so I'm gonna unpin myself, and I'm gonna find out from my sisters, Debrian and Gina, if they knew what was in the ark. Did you know that it was more than just those things, just the tablets? Did you know about the manna and Aaron's staff?
Hello. I knew about the tablets and the manna, but I didn't know about the staff. And that's interesting to be able to look at that and to know, of course, what the tablets were, of course, the commandments. and what it was, the instructions that the Lord was giving to the people. But the fact that he would also have included was the manna to remind them of how he provided for them, and the staff to remind them of their rebelliousness in spite of what he provided. It's just like, we're just going to do a little memory capsule for you all of this time period.
It all in here. It all in here. Exactly. And I'd heard about the manna, but I didn't realize it was in the ark. I remember hearing about them preserving some, but I did not realize it was in the ark until I read it in Hebrews. And I didn't realize they referenced it in Hebrews. That was also new.
No.
So, Gina, what about you?
I remember hearing something about a staff in the ark, but I don't know whose staff it was or what the relevance of the staff was. The thing that struck me in the story was, I think you said that they had been in the desert a month and a half when they started saying we should have just stayed. I mean, it was like the 15th day of the second month. I'm like, oh, y'all. Oh, oh,
Right.
no. You've been
complaining
enslaved. You've been enslaved forever. And now just, 6 weeks in, you're like, you should have
They're over it. They're over it.
Right, left us there to die. We didn't even, we could have, we had, at least we had meat. Come on.
No, I know. What were they enslaved? 400 years? And then 6 weeks. Done.
They couldn't take it.
Right.
They couldn't take it.
Right. We don't have meat. We don't even have meat. And then I love the people who, God knows he told the Israelites to rest on the Sabbath. And he was like, you will have exactly what you need every day. Except on the 6th day, you'll have double, because I know you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. I've told you not to work on the Sabbath. And they were still like, let me get some extra right here. Let me just get this little bit extra. Let me just keep this.
Right.
Just in case, just in case.
Right. Like they didn't trust him, that he wouldn't do what he said.
So much distrust.
That's what we believe.
So much distrust. So
And
anyway,
God's like, maggots and stink for you. That's what
you right. And then on the Sabbath, now you took as much as you needed for 2 days. On the 6th day, thank you, baby. But you're still going back out looking for more on the Sabbath. What?
Nevertheless, people out there hunting for some manna.
Yeah, I mean, why? Just going for disrespect. Just aiming for it. I don't understand. So anyway,
It doesn't make any sense.
Fascinating.
It doesn't make any sense. As my mom would say, not a particle. Not a particle of sense.
Not a particle.
Yep. So anyway, when I was reading that, and of course I've read it multiple times, but every time I read it, because of course we're in hindsight. So I get, in hindsight, we can look at it and say, it wasn't even 6 weeks and here you were. Yes, in hindsight, we can say that, but it's just, it doesn't, I would have to say, I would hope. And look at our own lives. We've all experienced miracles.
Right.
And we go through some difficult times and we're like, God, where are you? Why have you forsaken me? Try to be, faithful. So we can all go there when things aren't lining up the way we need them to line up, when we don't feel good, when money gets tight, when, the person we love says no, all of the things that will kill me now, just them, just, pitiful, forgetting how easy it is to forget. In fact, one of the things I always think about is when we have a cold and we're all stuffed and coughing and nose is just blowing the whole thing. And then one day we wake up and the cold is gone. We just get up like everything is everything. We forget that the day before we couldn't breathe. And we get up like it's regular. And then somebody will say, oh, it sounds like you're feeling much better. And we're like, ah. And we have to remember that just yesterday I wasn't feeling good. And so, and then when we don't feel good, we feel like there was never a day. We feel I've had this stuffy nose all my life. It's been 24 hours, Connie. Can you please stop?
My nose is always stuffy. It's always stuffy. Always. I always feel like crap.
That's what Dad used to call it. Sore.
We can't hear you. You went high C.
Your nose and gets red, rough, and sore. Remember how Dad used to call it red, rough, and sore? And because you blowing and blowing, so it was red, rough, and sore.
And that is
Look, I
accurate.
made my red just that fast. So convinced, been sick forever. Been
Forever.
sick forever. And it's been 48 hours. Yeah. So yeah, they were second, like you said, Jean, 15th day of the second month, and they have tossed the towel. It should have left us there.
And I got beaten as a slave. That got me out here. You know, freedom doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. Right? It's like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Remember when they got mad? I didn't even get to that part, but when they got mad about the manna, they're like, "We're tired of this manna."
Yep.
And he gave him something else. This is different from when he did the quail and the manna. There's another time when they got tired of the manna, and they said the same thing. You just let. At least we had options. Right. We had a menu of options back in Egypt. Yeah, we were bloody and sore, and we had to carry heavy, but still, we had a bigger menu. So you just brought us out here to die in the desert.
When the term, treated like a Hebrew slave didn't come from nowhere, it lets you know that it was not a cakewalk out there, right? Go a few days without meat, it's like, well, I'm going back.
Right. Do you guys remember in the movie? I love the movie Up. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies. But when he's tired of walking and Mr. What's his name? Not Anderson. What's his name? Anyway, the old guy is pulling him along. He's literally just being dragged on the ground. I'm tired. When are we gonna get there? And he's just pulling him along because he doesn't want to walk anymore. It reminds that was the Israelites. That was the Israelites for real. Just pitiful. And we can see it when we see children who get that way, just tired of walking. They just fall out. We see it at Disneyland. It was all good in first couple of hours. They get tired of walking, and that's it. They have now. Man, I don't want to be like
forgotten the miracle of you managing to get them. They had forgotten the miracle of you managing to get them to Disneyland, right? That they were so happy about 5 minutes ago. Now, the sun shines for a second too long, and they're just like, oh, man.
Right, it's too hot.
I want to go back to home.
Line is too long. All the things. Children, pitiful. Anyway, but it was interesting. Like I said, I looked up because I had no idea what the theme was. I looked it up and I was like, oh, the ark, Noah, got it. God was like, yeah, it's not what I wanted you to. And so I just looked, where can I quickly see? Because I wanted to not just see. Oh man, can you hear that? Okay, not just see when they talk about building the ark and them going on the ark, but I wanted to see other scriptures that reference the ark. So I went to look it up. And so then when I look up the scriptures, it had nothing to do with Noah's ark. And I was like, oh yeah. And then, like I said, reading Hebrews 9 and seeing what was in the ark, I didn't know. Didn't know the manna was in there, didn't know the rod was in there. So anyway, you're muted still, Debrian.
I had pushed it and it didn't work. Sorry. I was like, and go. Thank you. But what I was going to say was the fact that those were the 3 items that the Lord chose to be in there, and to be able to look at them as what he could actually use to be something to remind them of the miracles that he provided. That to save the actual manna, that was the miracle that he provided for them during that time. That the actual tablets, which were broken,
it had to be
rewritten again, right, by his finger, by his hand, to be given to them, was another miracle. And then the miracle of the staff, of the fact that a staff, which is dead wood, was able to blossom and it, not only did it bud, but blossomed and gave
But
you
it
some almonds.
blossomed and produced almonds, of all things. It probably wasn't even an almond tree staff, but it had almonds.
Exactly. So, but so interesting to think about it in that way, that this was the physical representation of these miracles. It's like, no, we want you to see that when you open this Ark of the Covenant, you see who I am. So I'm silencing. That's what he said. No more. I'm done. Done with this grumbling. Enough. You're quiet now. You see what I can do. So hush. Enough.
And remember this time that y'all didn't believe me, and remember that time that y'all didn't believe me.
Right. We're done now. Enough.
And I had to break. Remember, I had to break those. Okay.
Say that again, sister.
Remember, I had to break those first ones because y'all messed up.
We're done.
Anyway, so good. So good. So good to learn things I didn't know. Anyway, well, thank you for being with us, Facebook. We're signing off. I hope you enjoyed.